Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe, and I'm here with the co-host
Did you?
CGO or George. Today is the 12th of March, 2026, and we are talking about the first leg of the round of 16 for both the Conference League and the Europa League. I'm not going to read off all 16 results, but I'm going to read off some of the bigger ones right now. Porto went to Germany and beat Stuttgart 2-1. Bologna drew Roma at home. Aston Villa beat Lille in France. Those were all Europa League, as well as Midtjylland beat Forest in England 1-0. It's a big result. For the Conference League, Fiorentina beat Rakow Seskatwaka. I butchered that 2-1. Fiorentina obviously having a very poor season, but a historic club. Crystal Palace drew AEK Larnaca at home 0-0. Of course, that's something that's disappointing for them. George, there's a couple results I didn't read, George. I don't know if there's anything you want to talk about, George. Things that jumped out at me, obviously, I think one of the big meta news of aggregate of all these European games is England struggling. There's been the narrative that Aston Villa is the only team to win, and they won 1-0. Of course, Arsenal probably are still favored to go through, as are Liverpool. Overall disappointing match day for England as a whole. Do you feel like the narrative about the Premier League being one of the strongest leagues in the world, if not the strongest, has taken a hit?
I still believe the Premier League is the strongest league in the world. But the problem is, if you look at the number of games most English teams plays, is more compared to other leagues. In the Premier, I mean, in England, for example, you have the Europa League. I mean, you have the Premier League, you have the FA Cup, you have the Carabao Cup, and then you still need to play in Europe. So when you get involved in all these competitions, it tells on the players. And imagine PSG being given that flexibility of not playing this coming weekend so that they can prepare ahead for the Chelsea game, the return leg. Chelsea doesn't have that kind of privilege. You don't see those kind of privileges from the English clubs. So at the end of the day, it's going to have serious effect on the players. So I believe that is really having effect on the performance of the English teams at this stage of the competition, because at this point the Premier League is even more intense because clubs don't want to get relegated. Clubs are fighting to make sure they get into Europe and stuff like that. So it becomes more competitive, which means a lot of energy will be required from the players. They dedicate so much energy playing the Premier League. By the time they'll be playing maybe in the midweek in the European competitions, they are already suffering from fatigue. So I feel fatigue is one of the things responsible for this kind of poor performance from the English teams. That's my own opinion.
I might slightly disagree here, but I feel like the absolute elite teams in other countries would all be winning in the Premier League right now. I do feel like Bayern Munich, PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid, all would probably, be in that at least at the minimum in the title race in the Premier League, if not top of the league. Certainly Bayern, I think, would be walking the league right now in terms of their quality. Um, I think that the Premier League has more good teams than Germany, than Spain. More great teams, but not. I feel like the actual level of between Arsenal and those top six in England right now um, are not any better than any other team, any of those top teams I've mentioned. I think this changes year to year. I do think that Premier League has three very strong relegation teams, as George mentioned this year. Teams that can beat anybody that they. I mean, Premier League hasn't had that the last couple of years. It's kind of been propped up the league a bit at the top of the table. I think this year's a little more flat because those bottom teams across the board are better. I think Tottenham obviously are awful this last 2 months, but um, yeah. So I think it's a lot more nuanced than what's the best league in the world. I do think the Spanish team is harder to win because there's two elite teams, but um, there's other leagues that are harder for other reasons.
So Joe, so let me ask you this question. Imagine a situation where we had a Real Madrid playing on a Friday before their game against Manchester City on Wednesday. This past Wednesday that they both played. Now, Manchester City played their own game on a Saturday. So what it tells you is that other leagues, their FA tries to give their teams participating in Europe some kind of privileges. You don't get that with the Premier League. That's the problem. So at the end of the day, these other FAs of other leagues tries to help their team to perform very well in Europe. So I feel that is having serious effect on the English team. That's what I feel. Because
Yeah,
if that privilege can be given to allow Real Madrid to play on a Friday, knowing fully well they'll be playing on Wednesday against a very strong opposition like Manchester City, definitely it's going to help. It will help the players to perform
yeah.
much better because they
But
can rest.
George, but
They have more
George,
days to
but
rest.
But George, like the reason that England has so much money is because of the TV deals and because England, like these teams, basically you can't have it both ways. You can't get a gazillion dollars every year from your television contracts and then turn around and say to these television companies that are giving you all this money, no, we want to play on a Friday and you're going to get half as much viewers. Deal with it because we have Europe. Like it's you can you can't have your cake and eat it too as a club. You can either play on a Friday and get less money, which Real Madrid does, or you can play on Saturday or Sunday at your own time slot that may or may not be convenient for your European campaign, get more money, and deal with it. And these clubs all have enough sizable squads to deal with this. They decide to play the best 11 every week, the same 11, a lot of them every week, and it causes injuries. Like this is on them. I feel like it's a double edged sword, and I don't feel like either way is right or wrong. England has won what 3 Champions Leagues in the last 78 years. Gotten to multiple other finals. Like they have not been, and honestly, will probably go through on at least 4 or 5 of these ties this year, and they'll probably lose 4 or 5, but that's pretty normal. They'll probably win 4 out of 8. I'd guess at this point, but we'll see what happens next week. But
Because if you look at it this week, the only two teams that got something that is a bit encouraging in terms of result in Europe from the Premier League is just Arsenal, who drew against Bayer Leverkusen, and then we also have Aston Villa defeating Lille in the Europa League. The rest
Liverpool's
of the
result is
teams,
not great, but they will certainly be favored at this point to go through, just because they lost 1-0 in Turkey.
yeah.
From what it was largely an even game, and then they on the balance of 90 minutes. But yes, they will also be favored, and I would be surprised, George, if one of those other teams didn't go through, whether it be Palace or one of the other teams.
So with the way Aston Villa is performing in the Europa League, do you see them going all the way to the final and possibly winning this competition? Because with the way Nottingham Forest is performing now, I don't think the English fans should be counting on them to go all the way.
I think Unai Emery has won this competition several times. I think he's a great manager. I think they have a quality team. Yes, they have George. They have to be favorites at this point. And if I'm Aston Villa, I see the Premier League as probably the easier route to Champions League. But I think that as a club, I think that they will prioritize that trophy. I do think that they have to be favorites, but anything can happen in a knockout. So we will see.
If you look at the lineup today, you will see that they are taking it very serious, not minding that they'll be playing against Manchester United at Old Trafford on Sunday. But they use their full squad in this game against Lille. And I believe that helped them to get the much desired result in this game. So I feel they are trying to prioritize Europa League because the way the Premier League is going, there is no guarantee. You have more difficult and tougher positions to encounter compared to the Europa League. I feel if they put their hands together and show more focus and concentration, I feel they have that high chance of lifting the Europa League. Ona Hemre is an expert when it comes to winning Europa League. He has won it several times with, I think, with Sevilla and also with Villarreal.
Yes.
He's a man who knows how to win the Europa League. So I
He
won't be
also
surprised.
he also I believe got to a Champions League semifinal with Villarreal. They lost to Liverpool in 2022, and I believe did he get to the Champions League final with PSG or was that Tuchel?
No, 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 no. It's Tuchel.
That
Tuchel
was
that
too
got to the
far. Okay.
final with them. Yeah.
But either way, Emery has a great record in Europe. Sorry if I didn't remember the specific year on that Champions League final. But yeah, and even in the league, he has a great record. So I think that they have to be favorites at this point, and good luck to them. It's exciting.
What do you have to say about the loss of Nottingham Forest at home to Midtjylland, the team from Denmark? Was that a big surprise to you?
No, I think that English fans don't watch these other leagues, and like I think there's a lot less gap between these leagues than a lot of people who don't watch these leagues assume. Like Midland is all professional players. They're all players who, yeah, again, on a one-off would not look like an idiot in the Premier League. Like I don't think all of them will eventually go on to larger leagues. But the margins between these leagues are so small, and a couple moments of luck, one player having an elite game can certainly turn the tide when it comes to Midland, even if they do have 1/5 of the budget of Nottingham Forest. Honestly, Nottingham Forest has been poor this year in the Premier League. So no, it has not surprised me at all. I think if this is a Nuno coach, seventh place Nottingham Forest, it would surprise me. But this is not. This is Nottingham Forest and their fourth coach. This is Nottingham Forest who has lost a couple of players and has Chris Wood not firing like last year. So they still have some quality. Obviously, like Elliot Anderson and Murillo was good, but not the same Nottingham Forest as last year. What about you, George? Did this surprise you? Did this result surprise you?
I was surprised because considering the opposition they were playing against, I was thinking uh, they will be able to get victory in this game, considering that they are playing at home at the City Ground. That was my own thoughts, but I was very disappointed that they lost the game because they played with their first 11 in this match, which shows how serious they took the match. The likes of Odson Odoi were in this game. The likes of Murillo was in this game, and they said all these guys were all there. So I expected them to win, but to my greatest surprise, the team from Denmark came and shocked them. But the question I would like to ask you is that do you think they can go to Denmark and turn the table around?
I don't think they will. I think Nottingham Forest is a team that it would almost be a relief to get out of the Premier League. I think they're the opposite of Villa. They'd rather get out of the Europa League if it meant staying in the Premier League. Which now my thoughts process has changed. 2 weeks ago, I thought Nottingham Forest was going down. I think Tottenham are going down. I've changed my mindset on that. I think if I was, I don't bet, but I'd say that's going to happen. And I do feel like Nottingham Forest is going to go out, and that's going to give them a spur in Premier League, and they will stay up. Was the other team? Yeah, I also think Midland. I mean, again, Midland is probably pretty good. I mean, better than most English fans give them credit for. So, yeah, we'll see. What about you, George? Do you think that they're going to go through?
No, I feel they still have the opportunity of turning things around. Uh, I see them going to Denmark and maybe um, getting the result because 1-0 is not it's no much different. They can go there and get 2-0 or 3-0. That's a possibility. So I won't write off Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest, one problem they have this season is they are very inconsistent. I knew when they played against Manchester City, we all expected Manchester City to whitewash them. But to our greatest surprise, they went to Etihad and shocked everyone and got a 2-2 draw. That was not a result many of us anticipated, but it happened.
Yeah,
So I won't be
but still,
surprised if they go to Denmark and get a result.
but George, you can't just look at this club's budget and this club budget and say this club should beat this club because the budget is higher. Like that's not how football works. Like again, Man City having twice the budget does not mean their players are twice as skilled. There's such fine margins and there's such luck and precision resulting to this. I think if you look at a 10-year period, especially in England, like England don't have historically good club or at this team at this second. When they had Man City, probably was for several years under Pep. They had 2 or 3 years of Klopp's teams being elite, where you could basically just count on them, bank on them, beating these mid-table teams every single week. Both those teams for years. Um, Before Pep and Klopp came along, and after, like I'm not sure that's going to be the case. It's very interesting to see. I think that we'll see a lot more flattening of the hierarchy within Europe, where you will see more upsets because that's where just the meta and the strategy, the game are, and a lot of these smaller clubs are a lot more professional and a lot more closer to these elite clubs than we give them credit for.
So let's talk about the Crystal Palace. I was surprised that the team from Cyprus came to the Ceres Park and got a draw there. Was that a surprise to you?
I mean, yes, especially in England, but like again, George Palace is a team. I've never seen this Cypriot team play. Like I can't make a judgment on how likely they are to play against Palace. I have a pretty good idea of how good Palace are, what their weaknesses are, what to watch for in the Premier League. But I've never seen the Cypriot team play. I didn't watch today's game. I rate a lot of Palace's players, and I think Ollie Glasner is a great coach, but. Um, I think that um, I've seen them also struggle in games this year. What about you? Did you have thoughts on this particular game? Did you see any of the highlights of this game?
I Palace were not too bad in this game. The issue is that when you play against teams like this, you must take your chance. If you don't take your chance, then
Yeah,
the score will end this way. But one thing I believe is I still feel they have the opportunity of going to Cyprus and get a good result against the team. Hopefully, the team from Cyprus will be more open in their approach in the game. Uh, and that will give maybe Crystal Palace the opportunity to have more to create chances of maybe scoring goals. And that one of the things that will also be very critical in that game is when you have your chance, you take them.
yeah.
That's one thing.
We'll see,
So
George. We'll see.
yes,
Let me close out today. Just a standard couple questions to ask at the end of every podcast. Number one, do you feel like Crystal Palace can go to Cyprus and turn this match around? Do you feel like Nottingham Forest can go to Denmark and turn their tie around? Do you see any upset of Aston Villa in the next round? And do you agree with George that maybe the Premier League teams should take a little less TV money, get a little more flexibility, and maybe that would impact enable them to perform better in Europe? I think it's a really interesting question. I don't own a football club, but I think that George was able to expand today. So appreciate everybody listening and check it out.